The plate shattered against the gunman's skull with a crack that echoed through the downtown streets. In 30 seconds, ex-Special Forces soldier Daniel Cross transformed from invisible busboy to lethal weapon, taking down 3 armed kidnappers with nothing but restaurant silverware. Billionaire CEO Olivia Hartman watched in stunned silence as her savior melted back into the shadows, leaving her with one burning question. Who was this ghost warrior hiding in plain sight? The September rain hammered Los Angeles like artillery fire, turning the streets outside Leonard and West into rivers of reflected neon. Inside the upscale restaurant, Daniel Cross moved between tables with practiced invisibility, clearing plates and refilling water glasses, while the city's elite discussed million-dollar deals over $100 steaks. His calloused hands, steady as surgical instruments, betrayed nothing of their history, hands that had once assembled rifles in Afghan darkness, that had pulled wounded brothers from burning Humvees, that now simply stacked dirty dishes with methodical precision. Table 12 needs clearing. Marcus, the head waiter, barked without looking up from his reservation tablet. Daniel nodded, already moving. 3 years of this routine had taught him the rhythm of service work: be efficient, be invisible, be forgettable. It was exactly what he needed. Through the rain-streaked windows, he caught a glimpse of his own reflection. 35 years old, but looking older. Brown hair grown out from its military cut. Gray eyes that had seen too much, carefully dulled to appear vacant. The kind of face people looked through, not at perfect for a man who wanted to disappear. His phone vibrated against his thigh. A text from Mrs. Chen Laya: finished homework, made mac and cheese. She's asking about you again. Daniel's jaw tightened. His 8-year-old daughter was too smart for her own good, already picking up on the weight he carried. He typed back quickly, home by 11, tell her I love her. She knows, came the reply, but she needs to hear it from you. He slipped the phone away, guilt gnawing at his chest. Every night he worked was a night stolen from Laya, but the restaurant's evening shifts paid double what day work offered, and God knew they needed every penny. The medical bills from Sarah's cancer had drained their savings, and even 3 years after her death, the debt collector still called. Cross Marcus snapped. The VIP section. Now. Daniel grabbed his bus tray and headed toward the restaurant's private dining area, separated from the main floor by frosted glass panels. Through the translucent barrier, he could make out a small group finishing their meal. 3 men in dark suits and a woman whose posture alone commanded the room. As he pushed through the diviator, Daniel's trained eye automatically cataloged the scene. The men, private security, trying too hard to look casual. Earpieces, poorly concealed shoulder holsters, jackets hanging wrong from concealed carries. Amateurs playing professional. The woman, Olivia Hartman, though the tabloids didn't do her justice. Mid-30s, auburn hair pulled back in a style that cost more than Daniel made in a week. Green eyes that missed nothing. It's CEO of Hartman Industries, one of the country's fastest-growing clean energy companies. She was arguing with someone on her phone, her voice controlled but tight. I don't care what the board thinks, Richard. The battery technology stays proprietary. No foreign partnerships, no licensing deals. We're talking about national security here. Daniel kept his head down, clearing plates with mechanical efficiency. Just another invisible servant in her world of billions and board meetings. Her security detail barely glanced at him. Critical mistake, he noted but didn't dwell on. Not his problem anymore. The prototype testing is scheduled for next week. Olivia continued, standing to pace near the window. If the numbers hold, we're looking at a complete transformation of energy storage. Electric vehicles with 1,000-mile ranges, grid-level storage that actually works. This changes everything. One of her security men, the tallest with a Boston accent, thick as chowder, checked his watch. Ma'am, we should go. The weather's getting worse. Olivia waved him off, still focused on her call. Richard, I'm hanging up. We'll discuss this at tomorrow's board meeting. And if anyone else suggests partnering with Zhang Industries, remind them what happened to Solyndra. She ended the call with a sharp tap, then turned to her security. Give me 5 minutes. I need some air. Ma'am, the weather? 5 minutes, Thompson. Her tone brooked no argument. I'm going to stand under the awning and remember what it feels like to not be in a boardroom. Daniel watched them file out through the restaurant's side entrance, the one that opened onto the narrow alley between buildings. His instincts prickled something his old squad leader used to call his spider sense. 3 men, 1 principal, heading into a confined space with limited visibility and bad weather. Every tactical bone in his body screamed wrong, but he forced himself to keep working. Not his problem, not his world. He had Laya to think about. The crash came 2 minutes later, the sound of metal on brick, followed by a woman's sharp cry. Daniel's body moved before his mind could stop it, muscle memory, overriding 3 years of careful civilian conditioning. He was through the side door while other diners were still looking up from their meals. The scene in the alley unfolded in his mind like a tactical map. 3 hostiles in ski masks, not her security. Thompson and the others were down blood, pooling beneath their still forms, alive or dead. No time to check. Olivia pressed against the brick wall, rain plastering her designer dress to her trembling frame. The lead attacker held a Glock 19 stance, professional finger indexed along the trigger guard. The other 2 flanked him, creating overlapping fields of fire. Please, Olivia's voice remained steady despite her fear. Whatever you want. Shut up, the lead gunman said. Eastern European accent, maybe Serbian. You come with us. No noise, no problems. Daniel's hand found the stack of plates he'd been carrying, his mind calculating angles and distances. 20 feet. 3 targets. Element of surprise. In Afghanistan, he'd have had an M4 and squad support. Here he had dinner plates and the knowledge that his daughter was waiting for him at home. Leia's face flashed in his mind. Growing up without a mother was hard enough. Growing up without both parents. The gunman grabbed Olivia's arm, yanking her forward. She stumbled, crying out as her heels snapped. That small sound of distress made Daniel's decision for him. The first plate flew like a ceramic frisbee, catching the lead gunman in the throat. He dropped hands, clutching his crushed windpipe. Daniel was already moving, using the momentum to close distance. The second attacker swung his weapon around, but Daniel had reached him, deflecting the gun arm up with his left hand while driving a dinner fork into the man's wrist tendons with his right. The gun clattered away. The third man fired too high. Panic shot the bullet, sparking off brick inches from Olivia's head. Daniel rolled forward, came up with a handful of gravel from the alley floor, and flung it into the shooter's face. As the man flinched, Daniel swept his legs, bringing him down hard onto the wet pavement. A precise strike to the carotid sinus, and the attacker went limp. Total elapsed time, 8 seconds. Daniel turned back to the second attacker, who was trying to retrieve his dropped weapon with his good hand. A measured kick sent the gun skittering into darkness, followed by a knee strike that put the man into the wall. He slumped down unconscious. The lead gunman was still moving, trying to crawl despite his damaged throat. Daniel knelt beside him, applying pressure to specific points that would keep him conscious but immobile. He needed answers. Who sent you? Daniel's voice had dropped an octave, accessing a register he hadn't used in 3 years. The man's eyes widened in recognition of what he was facing, not a busboy, but something far more dangerous. He tried to speak, but only managed a wet gurgle. Sirens wailed in the distance. Daniel looked up at Olivia, who stood frozen against the wall, rain and shock mingling on her face. Their eyes met for a single electric moment. In hers, he saw questions forming, wheels turning behind the shock. In his, she saw something that made her take an involuntary step back, a glimpse of the predator that lived beneath the service uniform. Your security needs medical attention, Daniel said, his voice returning to its normal register. He checked Thompson's pulse, steady but weak. Tell the police you didn't see who helped you. The rain, the confusion. You don't remember. Wait, Olivia started forward, but Daniel was already moving. He disappeared into the maze of downtown alleys, leaving behind 3 unconscious attackers, 3 wounded security guards, and 1 very confused billionaire. By the time the police arrived, he was blocks away, just another pedestrian hunched against the rain. His phone buzzed. Mrs. Chen again. Leia's asking if you can read to her when you get home. Daniel's hands shook slightly as he typed, tell her yes, always yes. But even as he headed home, he knew this wasn't over. The attackers had been professionals despite their failure. Someone had wanted Olivia Hartman badly enough to attempt a kidnapping in downtown LA. And worse, he'd shown his capabilities. 3 years of careful anonymity shattered in 8 seconds of violence. He thought about Olivia's eyes in that moment of recognition, the way they'd sharpened despite her shock. She was the type who'd want answers, the type who'd look for him. Daniel quickened his pace, mind already running through contingencies. They'd have to move again. New city, new identities, new school for Leia. The thought of uprooting her again made his chest tight, but staying might be worse. If whoever targeted Olivia traced the intervention back to him. The apartment building loomed before him, a tired brick structure that had seen better decades. Mrs. Chen met him at her door, concern creasing her weathered face. "You're soaked," she said, then lowered her voice. "And you have that look, the one from when you first moved in." "Everything's fine," Daniel lied smoothly. "Just a long shift." She studied him with eyes that had seen revolution in Taiwan, that had raised 4 children alone after her husband died. "Lies on my couch." She insisted on waiting up. Daniel found his daughter curled under one of Mrs. Chen's hand-knitted blankets, a book clutched to her chest. Her dark hair, Sarah's hair, spilled across the cushions. Even in sleep, she looked worried, her small face pinched with concerns no 8-year-old should carry. "Hey, Princess Leia," he whispered, gathering her into his arms. She stirred, blinking up at him with eyes that were purely his gray and too perceptive. "Daddy, you smell like rain. Got caught in it. Come on, let's get you to bed. Will you read to me always?" He carried her across the hall to their apartment, 2 bedrooms that felt smaller every month. Leia's room was a careful chaos of books, drawings, and the few toys they could afford. He tucked her in, then reached for their current book, something about a girl who discovered she could talk to dragons. Daddy, Leia's voice was small. "Are we going to have to move again?" The question hit like a physical blow. "What makes you ask that?" "You have your worried face, the same one from before we left Houston and Phoenix." Daniel forced a smile. "No moves planned, Princess, I promise." "Good. I like my teacher, and Emma's my friend. She says I can come to her birthday party next month." Each word twisted the knife deeper. A birthday party. Such a normal thing, yet it might as well be on Mars for all the stability he could offer her. He read until her breathing deepened into sleep, then sat watching her in the dim light from the hallway. Sarah would have known what to do. Sarah always knew, but Sarah was gone, leaving him to navigate parenthood like a minefield, never knowing which step might cause everything to explode. His phone vibrated. Unknown number, Mr. Cross, or should I say Sergeant First Class Cross. "We need to talk about tonight." Daniel's blood chilled. She'd found him already. His name, his rank. How much else did she know? He deleted the message, then went to his bedroom closet. Behind a false panel he'd installed himself was a go bag, cash, fake IDs, ammunition for weapons he no longer officially owned. He'd hoped to never need it again. Another buzz. "I'm not looking for trouble, just answers. And I think you need to know they weren't after me. They were after what I've developed. This is bigger than either of us." Daniel stared at the message. Every instinct screamed to run, pack Leia up, disappear into the night, become new people by morning. It's what had kept them safe for 3 years. But something about the message made him hesitate. "They had surveillance photos of your daughter. They know who you are." The blood drained from Daniel's face. His thumb hovered over the phone screen, rage and fear warring in his chest. If this was manipulation? But no, he'd seen Olivia's face in that alley. She wasn't the type for games. And if they really did have photos of Leia? He typed, "Tomorrow, noon. Public place. You come alone or this ends badly. Griffith Observatory. I'll be at the Einstein statue." Daniel set the phone down and returned to Leia's doorway. She slept peacefully, unaware that their carefully constructed world was already crumbling. He'd promised Sarah he'd protect their daughter, and he'd failed. Sarah couldn't protect her from the cancer that ate her alive, and now he was failing their daughter too. But as he stood there, he couldn't shake the feeling that by intervening tonight, he'd set something in motion that couldn't be stopped. The ghost he'd tried to bury was clawing its way back to the surface, and this time there might be no running from it. The next morning came too quickly. Daniel made Leia breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, her favorite, while his mind ran through tactical scenarios. Mrs. Chen agreed to watch her after school, accepting his excuse about extra shifts without question, though her eyes said she knew better. "Be careful, Mr. Cross," she said as he left. "Whatever this is, be careful." The drive to Griffith Observatory took 40 minutes in LA traffic. Daniel parked a quarter-mile away, approaching on foot to scout the area. Old habits died hard, and some habits kept you alive. He spotted Olivia's security, first 2 teams trying to blend with the tourists, but failing miserably. She hadn't come alone, but then he hadn't expected her to. What surprised him was that she stood openly by the Einstein statue, clearly visible, making herself a target. Either she was foolish, or she trusted her security more than she should. Daniel circled wide, using tourist groups for concealment, until he could approach from her blind spot. He was 3 feet away before she noticed him, and only because he cleared his throat. She spun, hand going to her chest. Jesus, how did you? She looked around at her security, none of whom had noticed his approach. Never mind. Up close in daylight, she was more striking than he'd realize. Not beautiful in the classical sense, but compelling with an intensity that commanded attention. Her suit probably cost more than he made in a month, but she wore it like armor. You found me quickly, Daniel said, keeping his voice neutral. I have resources. She studied him openly. You look different out of uniform, less invisible. That's the point of a uniform. Is it, or is looking invisible the point? She reached into her purse and Daniel tensed, but she only pulled out a tablet. Daniel Cross, Army Rangers 2005 to 2018. 4 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. Silver Star Bronze Star with Valor 3 Purple Hearts. Medically discharged after an IED incident that killed half your squad. Wife died of cancer 2 years later. You've been moving ever since, never staying in one place more than 8 months. Until LA. Daniel's jaw tightened. You had no right. They had all of this too. She turned the tablet toward him. On the screen were surveillance photos of him at work at Leia's school at the grocery store, and worse photos of Leia alone walking home, playing in the park, reading in the library. These were on one of the attacker's phones. The police don't know. I have a friend in the department who let me look before they logged evidence. The world narrowed to those images of his daughter. Someone had been watching her, cataloging her routines, her vulnerabilities. Daniel's hands curled into fists, the careful control he'd maintained for 3 years cracking. Who the word came out as a growl. That's what I'm trying to find out. Olivia lowered the tablet. But I think it's connected to my work. 3 months ago, we had a breakthrough, a new battery technology that could revolutionize energy storage. We're talking about ending dependence on fossil fuels within a decade. The implications are worth killing for Daniel finished. Worth starting wars over. She nodded. The attack last night wasn't random. They knew where I'd be when my security would be most vulnerable. Someone inside my company is feeding them information. Not my problem. It is now. She gestured to the photos of Leia. They know who you are, what you're capable of. You interfered with their plans. Do you really think they'll just let that go? Daniel wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. In Afghanistan, he'd learned that once you were on someone's radar, the only way off was through victory or death. What do you want from me, he asked. Help. Protection. Someone I can trust who isn't connected to my company, my board, or any government agency that might have its own agenda. You don't know me. I know you risked your life to save a stranger. I know you're raising a daughter alone while working a job that's beneath your capabilities. And I know you're the kind of man who can take down 3 armed professionals with dinner plates. She paused. That's more than I know about anyone else in my life right now. I'm not for hire. I'm not trying to hire you. I'm trying to survive long enough to get this technology to market. And based on those photos, so are you. She pulled out a business card, expensive card stock with minimal text. My direct line. When you're ready to admit we're in this together, call me. She started to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You saved my life and the reward is getting dragged into my nightmare. That's not fair. Fair. Daniel laughed bitterly. Fair died with my wife. All that's left is protecting what matters. Their eyes met and something passed between them. Understanding maybe, or recognition of kindred damage. Then she was walking away, her security falling into formation around her, still oblivious to the fact that the most dangerous person on the observation deck was the one they'd never notice. Daniel stood there lunching after she'd gone, her card burning in his pocket. Every instinct said to run to grab Leia and disappear into the vast anonymous sprawl of America. But the images on that tablet haunted him. They knew about Leia. Running wouldn't change that. His phone rang. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Cross, Leia's school called. There was a man asking questions about her. Security stopped him, but Daniel was already running for his car. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone but me. The drive back took an eternity and an instant. He took corners on 2 wheels, weaving through traffic with skills he'd learned pursuing insurgents through cobbled streets. By the time he reached the apartment, 3 LAPD units were already there. He found Leia in Mrs. Chen's apartment, surrounded by police officers who looked barely old enough to shave. She ran to him the moment he appeared, burying her face in his chest. There was a man, Daddy. He had a camera. It's okay, princess, you're safe. Over her head, he looked at the lead officer. Description: white male, mid-40s, European accent. Said he was a photographer doing a story about urban schools. Had fake credentials, but good ones. School security got suspicious when he kept asking about specific students. Just mine. The officer hesitated. Named 3 others. All children of single parents with military backgrounds. Daniel's mind raced. They weren't just watching him. They were building a profile identifying similar targets. But why leverage recruitment? We'll post a unit outside tonight, the officer said. But honestly, if someone wants to hurt my daughter, they won't get near her. Daniel's tone left no room for doubt. The officer nodded, recognizing something in Daniel's eyes that made further discussion unnecessary. That night, after Leia was asleep, Daniel sat in the dark living room with a glass of whiskey he didn't drink and Olivia's card in his hand. Through the thin walls, he could hear Mrs. Chen's television, the laugh track of some sitcom, providing surreal counterpoint to his thoughts. He thought about Sarah, how she'd made him promise to keep Leia safe to give her a normal life. But normal was a luxury they couldn't afford anymore, maybe had never been able to afford. At midnight, he made the call. I was wondering when you'd call. Olivia answered on the second ring. She sounded exhausted. Ground rules, Daniel said without preamble. I don't work for you. We work together. My daughter's safety is non-negotiable. If it comes down to your technology or her life, I choose her every time. Understood. I want everything, every file, every employee record, every piece of correspondence related to your project. If someone in your company is dirty, I'll find them. I'll have it ready by morning. And I want resources, safe houses, clean vehicles, untraceable funds. If we're doing this, we do it right. Done. There was a pause, then Olivia said, Can I ask you something? Why did you really intervene last night? You could have walked away. Daniel thought about lying, but found himself speaking truth. Because I've walked away before, from fights that mattered, from people who needed help. My wife used to say I was trying to save the world to make up for the ones I couldn't save. Maybe she was right, and now I just want to save my daughter. Everything else is secondary. That's not true, though, is it? If it was, you wouldn't have helped me. Daniel didn't answer, but she was right. Somewhere beneath the scar tissue and carefully constructed walls, the soldier who'd once believed in causes greater than himself was still alive, still fighting. There's something else, Olivia said. The man who approached your daughter's school, we think he's connected to Jiang Industries. They're a Chinese conglomerate with interests in energy and defense. They've been trying to acquire my company for 2 years. And when you said no, things started happening. Industrial accidents, key employees having family emergencies. Nothing traceable, but the pattern was clear. So they escalated to kidnapping. Or worse, she paused. Can this line be traced, not to me, to you, theoretical quantum encryption? My own design. Despite everything, Daniel almost smiled. Of course it is. The FBI thinks Jiang has connections to Chinese intelligence. They want my battery technology for military applications. Imagine tanks and aircraft with unlimited operational range. Submarines that never need to surface. The strategic implications would shift the global balance of power. And you're the only one who has it. For now. But every day we delay getting it to market is another day they have to steal it. Or steal me. Daniel heard something in her voice, not fear, but a bone-deep exhaustion that he recognized. The weight of carrying something too important to put down. Get some sleep, he said. Tomorrow we start hunting, Daniel. Her voice was softer now. Thank you for saving me, for helping me, for... Don't thank me yet. This is going to get worse before it gets better. He hung up and went to check on Leia one more time. She slept peacefully, clutching the stuffed rabbit Sarah had given her before the cancer got too bad. In sleep, she looked so young, so fragile. But Daniel knew better. She had Sarah's strength, that quiet resilience that had carried them through 18 months of chemo and radiation. She'd need it for what was coming. Because as Daniel stood there in the darkness, he could feel it, the old familiar sensation of being in someone's crosshairs. They were being hunted, and the hunter was getting closer. Tomorrow he'd start hunting back. But tonight he stood watch over his daughter and made the same promise he'd made to Sarah. In those final moments, whatever it takes, whatever it costs, he would keep their little girl safe, even if it meant becoming the weapon he'd tried so hard to bury. The morning brought no peace. Daniel woke to find an encrypted drive had been delivered to Mrs. Chen's door, Olivia's files as promised. But there was something else, a photograph of him from his army days standing with his squad in Kandahar. Red X's marked through the faces of the dead. Only 3 faces remained unmarked, his and 2 others. On the back, someone had written, "You can't protect everyone, Sergeant Cross." Daniel's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Olivia's technology anymore. Someone was making it personal, someone who knew his history, his failures, his guilt. He looked at the faces of his dead brothers, remembered their last mission, the IED that should have killed him too, would have if Martinez hadn't pushed him clear at the last second. The survivor's guilt that had nearly destroyed him until Sarah pulled him back from the edge. Now Sarah was gone too, and someone was using his past as a weapon. His phone buzzed. "Olivia, we need to meet now. They killed someone." Daniel looked at the photograph one more time, then burned it in the kitchen sink. The past was dead, but its ghosts apparently were not, and they were coming for everyone he had left. The body belonged to Dr. Marcus Webb Hartman Industries, head of research and development. Daniel stood in the morgue's sterile coldness, studying what was left of the man who'd helped create Olivia's revolutionary battery technology. The official cause of death was a car accident brake failure on a winding mountain road. But Daniel recognized professional work when he saw it. The brake lines were cut with precision. Whoever did this wanted it to look accidental at first glance, but left just enough evidence for someone who knew what to look for. Detective Ray Morrison said an old contact from Daniel's first months in LA who'd helped him establish his new identity. Olivia stood beside them, her face pale but composed. She'd identified the body an hour ago, maintaining her CEO's mask, even as her hands trembled. Marcus was supposed to present the final test results to the board tomorrow. He was the only one besides me who understood the complete scope of the technology. Who else knew about the presentation, Daniel asked. The entire board, my senior staff. It wasn't a secret. We've been building toward this for months. She paused, something flickering across her face. Marcus called me last night, said he discovered something in the lab's security footage, but wanted to verify before bringing it to me. Now we'll never know what he found. Daniel exchanged glances with Morrison. The security footage, wiped Morrison confirmed. Professional job. Whoever did this had inside access to your systems, Ms. Hartman. They left the morgue in separate cars, but Daniel followed Olivia to her office in downtown LA, a gleaming tower that seemed to pierce the smoggy sky. Her security was visible now. 8 men who watched Daniel with barely concealed suspicion. He'd been added to their threat assessment after appearing from nowhere at Griffith Observatory. They don't trust you, Olivia said as they rode the executive elevator. Good. They shouldn't trust anyone right now. Daniel studied the elevator's control panel, noting the hidden cameras, the emergency protocols. How many people have access to this floor 12? Board members and senior staff only. And maintenance, cleaning crews, IT support. She fell silent, understanding, dawning. God, we're vulnerable everywhere, aren't we? Everyone is. The trick is making the vulnerabilities work for you. The elevator opened onto a floor that reeked of money and power. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that probably cost millions just to maintain. Olivia's office occupied the corner, a massive space that felt more like a fortress than a workspace. She went to a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a safe that looked like it could survive a nuclear blast. Inside were drives, documents, and something that made Daniel's breath catch, a prototype battery no bigger than a smartphone. This is it, she said, holding it up. 3 years of development. It can power a house for a month, a car for 5,000 miles, or a weapon system for... She trailed off. For long enough to change warfare forever, Daniel finished. Marcus was the only other person who knew the complete formula. I compartmentalized everything else. Different teams working on different components, no one seeing the full picture. She returned the prototype to the safe. Someone killed him for what he knew. Daniel's phone buzzed. Mrs. Chen Lia's home from school. Man in blue sedan has driven by 3 times. His body went rigid. Olivia noticed immediately. What is it? They're watching my daughter. He was already moving toward the door. I have to go. Wait! She grabbed his arm and he nearly reacted on instinct before catching himself. Bring her here. The building has a residential floor, corporate apartments for visiting executives. Full security controlled access. It's safer than a rundown apartment with one exit and windows that don't lock. Daniel's pride warred with pragmatism. Pragmatism won fine. But we do this my way. 20 minutes later, he was back at his apartment, Leia already packed thanks to Mrs. Chen's foresight. His daughter sat on her bed, clutching her rabbit eyes too, knowing for her 8 years. Are we running again, Daddy? Not running, Princess. Just relocating temporarily. Because of the man with the camera. Daniel knelt before her, taking her small hands in his scarred ones. Because Daddy's helping someone with something important, and until it's done, we need to stay somewhere safer. Are you being a soldier again? The question cut deep. He'd never told her details about his service, but children had a way of knowing things. Something like that. Mom said you were a hero, that you saved people. Your mom said a lot of things. She said you'd know when it was time to be a hero again. Leia's gray eyes, so like his own, studied him intently. Is it time? Daniel pulled her into a hug, unable to answer. Sarah had always seen him more clearly than he saw himself. Even dying, she'd known he couldn't stay hidden forever. The blue sedan was still there when they left, but Daniel had expected that. He took Leia out the back while Mrs. Chen created a distraction at the front, loudly arguing with a delivery driver about a non-existent package. The sedan's occupant was so focused on the building's entrance that he missed them entirely. Daniel took a circuitous route to Olivia's building, doubling back twice, switching vehicles at a parking garage where he'd stashed a clean car weeks ago, old habits dying hard. Leia stayed quiet throughout, reading her book as if this was all perfectly normal. The corporate apartment was on the 40th floor, a two-bedroom space that was larger than anywhere they'd lived since Sarah died. Leia's eyes went wide at the view, the city spreading below them like a circuit board. It's so high, she whispered. Is that okay? She nodded, then looked at him with that uncanny perception. The lady you're helping, is she nice? Before Daniel could answer, Olivia appeared in the doorway. She'd changed from her CEO armor into jeans and a sweater, looking younger, more vulnerable. You must be Leia. She crouched to the girl's level. I'm Olivia. Your dad is helping me with something very important. Leia studied her with those serious gray eyes. Are you? Why those men were watching us? Olivia glanced at Daniel, who nodded slightly. No point in lying to a child who already knew too much. Yes, Olivia said simply, and I'm very sorry about that, but your dad is going to make sure you're both safe. He's good at that, Leia said matter-of-factly. He has nightmares about the people he couldn't save, but he always saves me. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel felt exposed, as if his daughter had peeled back his skin to show the scars beneath. Olivia's eyes met his, and he saw understanding there. She had her own scars, just better hidden. Why don't you pick which bedroom you want? Daniel suggested, desperate to change the subject. As Leia explored the apartment, Olivia moved closer to him. Nightmares, leave it. My brother was a Marine, she said quietly. Came back from Fallujah different. He said the hardest part wasn't what he'd done, but what he couldn't do. The people he couldn't save. What happened to him? Suicide. 3 years after he came home. She stared out at the city. That's why I recognized the look. You have the same eyes he did. Always watching for threats, always ready for violence. But underneath is the guilt of surviving when others didn't. Daniel wanted to deny it. But what was the point? She'd seen through him as easily as Leia had. Daddy, Leia called from one of the bedrooms. There's a TV in here. Can I watch cartoons? 30 minutes, then homework, he called back, grateful for the interruption. Olivia pulled out a tablet, all business again. I've been reviewing Marcus's recent activities. 3 days ago, he accessed files he shouldn't have been able to, personnel records from before my time as CEO, when my father ran the company. Your father, Nathaniel Hartman, he founded the company 40 years ago, built it from nothing into a Fortune 500 corporation. Died of a heart attack 5 years ago, left me everything. She pulled up a photograph, a stern-looking man with Olivia's green eyes, but none of her warmth. He was brilliant, ruthless, and paranoid. Kept secrets even from me. What kind of secrets? That's what Marcus was trying to find out. The files he accessed were sealed after my father's death, required board approval to open. But somehow he got in. Daniel studied the file names on her screen. Most were standard corporate documents, but one stood out, Project Lightning Rod. What's that? I don't know. It's not in any official company records, but Marcus downloaded it 3 days before he died. She touched the screen and an error message appeared. File corrupted, conveniently corrupted after he accessed it, Daniel muttered. Someone's cleaning house. First the file, then Marcus. Next, me. Olivia's voice was steady, but he saw her hands tremble slightly. I'm the last person who knows how the technology works. Then we need to get you somewhere safe while I figure out who's behind this. No. Her CEO voice was back steel wrapped in silk. I have a company to run a presentation to make. If I disappear now, the board will panic, stock will crash. And whoever's doing this wins. Pride won't stop a bullet. It's not pride, it's duty. Thousands of people depend on Hartman Industries for their livelihoods. I won't abandon them because I'm scared. Daniel recognized this tone, the same one he'd used when refusing to leave wounded soldiers behind, even when staying meant almost certain death. Duty was a chain that could drag you to hell, but it was also what separated humans from animals. Fine, but we do this smart. I need a complete list of everyone with access to those files. Everyone who knew about Marcus's research. Everyone who stands to gain from your technology. Or your death. That's a long list. Then we'd better get started. They worked through the night, Olivia pulling records while Daniel analyzed patterns. Leia fell asleep on the couch, her book still clutched to her chest. Around midnight, Olivia made coffee, expensive stuff that tasted like liquid gold compared to the swill Daniel usually drank. Can I ask you something, she said, handing him a mug. Why did you really leave the military? Your record is exemplary. Until that last mission, then, nothing. Just a medical discharge in silence. Daniel stared into his coffee, seeing faces in the dark liquid. You read the report. I read the official report. Half your squad killed by an IED. You wounded received medical treatment and discharge. But that's not the whole story, is it? It never is. The men who died, it was my fault. The words came out harsh, raw. I was squad leader. My job to keep them safe. I missed the signs, didn't trust my instincts. Martinez saw something I missed, tried to warn me, but I was so focused on the mission. He trailed off, lost in memory. So Martinez saved you, pushed me clear just as the device detonated, took the full blast himself. Him and 4 others gone in an instant. And me. Few pieces of shrapnel concussion, survivor's guilt, that no amount of therapy could touch. It wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. That's what leadership means. Everything is your fault. Every decision, every consequence, every life lost under your command. He met her eyes. That's why I walked away. Because I couldn't trust myself to keep anyone safe anymore. But you kept your daughter safe, and you saved me. Leia is different. He paused, searching for words. She's the only good thing I've done since Sarah died. The only thing that matters. Olivia was quiet for a moment, then said, my father used to say that the only things worth doing are the ones that terrify you. That fear means it matters. Your father sounds like he was complicated. He was a bastard, she said bluntly. Brilliant, driven, successful, but a bastard. He built this company through sheer force of will, crushed anyone who stood in his way. I spent my whole life trying to prove I was worthy of his legacy, and he died before I could. Is that why you're pushing so hard with this technology? Maybe. Or maybe I just want to prove that power doesn't have to corrupt, that you can change the world without destroying everyone around you. She laughed bitterly. Look how well that's working out. Daniel's phone buzzed. Unknown number, but he recognized the pattern, a burner phone probably purchased within the last hour. Cross, he answered. You should have stayed invisible, Sergeant. The voice was electronically distorted, but carried a trace of accent Eastern European like the attackers from the alley. You've inserted yourself into something you don't understand. Enlighten me. The technology Miss Hartman has developed belongs to the world, not to one country or corporation. There are forces at work here beyond your comprehension. Let me guess, Jiang Industries, Chinese intelligence. Or are you freelance? A pause, you're not as clever as you think. Webb discovered the truth and it killed him, the same truth that killed Nathaniel Hartman 5 years ago. Daniel's eyes snapped to Olivia. What truth project? Lightning rod. Ask her about it. Ask her what her father was really building before he died. Ask her why the Department of Defense classified his research and buried it so deep even his daughter couldn't find it. The line went dead. Olivia had gone pale, her hand pressed to her mouth. Project Lightning Rod was real. I knew my father was working on something before he died, something he kept even from me. But when I took over the company, there was nothing. No files, no prototypes, no records. Like it never existed. But Marcus found something, and now he's dead. She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. God, what if my battery technology isn't even original? What if I've been recreating something my father already built? Daniel joined her at the window, studying the city lights below. Somewhere out there, enemies were moving against them, pieces on a chessboard they couldn't fully see. We need those files, he said. Whatever Marcus found, we need to see it. The corrupted data is on the company servers. Maybe our IT department can recover, no. We can't trust anyone inside your company, but I know someone who might help. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts until he found the one he needed. Someone who owes me a favor. The number rang twice before a gravelly voice answered. Daniel, Jesus Christ, that really you? Hello, Tommy. Thomas Tommy Rodriguez had served with a Daniel in Afghanistan, their squad's tech specialist before an IED took his left leg and ended his military career. Now he ran a cybersecurity firm in Venice Beach, doing gray area work for whoever paid best. Thought you were dead, brother. After Sarah, you just vanished. I needed to disappear, and now you need to reappear. Must be serious. It is. The coastal drive to Venice Beach cleared Daniel's head, the pre-dawn Pacific, a vast darkness punctuated by distant ships. He'd left Leia sleeping in the corporate apartment, Olivia promising to keep her safe. The exchange had been tense, Daniel unwilling to leave his daughter with someone he barely knew. Olivia insulted by his hesitation. But there was no better option. Whoever was stalking them already knew about their regular haunts. Tommy's office was a converted warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside, but housed some of the most sophisticated electronic equipment on the West Coast. Security cameras tracked Daniel's approach, and the reinforced door buzzed open before he could knock. Inside, the cavernous space hummed with technology server racks, multiple workstation screens displaying scrolling code and security feeds. Tommy wheeled himself forward, his prosthetic leg replaced with the high-tech wheelchair he preferred for long work sessions. His face was thinner than Daniel remembered, hair longer, but his eyes held the same manic intelligence. They embraced briefly, the awkward hug of men who weren't sure how to navigate their shared history. So this is where you've been hiding? Tommy swept his arm around the space. Better than the sandbox, right? The place impressed even Daniel, who had seen military installations with less sophisticated setups. You've done well for yourself. Turns out Uncle Sam trained me for a lucrative career, just not the one they had in mind. Tommy wheeled to a central workstation ringed by monitors. I heard things, brother. People looking for you, people with resources and grudges, who can't say for sure. Questions filtered through contractors, third parties. Professional inquiries, not street thugs. Tommy's fingers flew across his keyboard, pulling up data. Started about 6 months ago. Someone's been mapping old Rangers, especially guys from certain units. Your name came up. I buried what I could. Daniel felt a familiar cold spread through his chest, the tactical awareness of being hunted. You have any idea why? Tommy shook his head. Just whispers. Something about a project called Lightning Rod. Mean anything to you? It does now. Daniel handed him the encrypted drive from Olivia. I need you to recover corrupted data. Something wiped professionally but recently. Maybe in a hurry. Tommy whistled low when Daniel explained the situation. Bishop Industries, big leagues, man. Their security is actually decent. I've tested it for fun. You've hacked them, not hacked. Probed. There's a difference. More typing. Okay, I'm in their servers. What am I looking for? Project Lightning Rod. Files accessed by Marcus Webb 3 days ago. Tommy's screens filled with code as he worked, found them. And this wasn't just corrupted. It was professionally destroyed military-grade deletion protocols. He leaned forward, interested now, but whoever did it was in a hurry. They missed fragments. Can you recover them, maybe? Give me an hour. While Tommy worked, Daniel prowled the warehouse, checking sightlines and exits out of habit. The place was well secured, multiple escape routes, redundant power systems, even a panic room disguised as a storage closet. Tommy had learned from their military days. Daniel's phone buzzed, Olivia checking in. Everything quiet at the apartment. Leia still sleeping. But something in Olivia's voice seemed off, a tension that hadn't been there before. What's wrong? I've been thinking about my father's death, the heart attack. He was healthy, obsessive about fitness and the timing, right when he was supposed to present something to the Department of Defense. You think he was murdered? I think nothing about this is coincidence. Tommy's shout interrupted them. Got it, holy shit, Daniel, you need to see this. Daniel moved to look over Tommy's shoulder. On screen were partially recovered documents, technical specifications, chemical formulas, test results. It was battery technology, but different from what Olivia had described. More primitive, but also more weaponized. This isn't just energy storage, Tommy said. This is a weapon. Electromagnetic pulse capability directed energy applications. Your girlfriend's father was building a battery that could power weapons we don't even have yet, and someone killed him for it, or to stop it. Daniel, look at this. Tommy pulled up another fragment, a list of names. This is a Defense Department Black Ops unit. Project Lightning Rod wasn't just Hartman Industries. It was a joint operation with military and intelligence. One name on the list made Daniel's blood freeze, Colonel Richard Sterling. His former commander, the man who'd sent them on the mission that killed half his squad. Sterling's involved in this. Was. He died 2 years ago. Car accident. Tommy's voice was grim, starting to see a pattern. Everyone connected to Project Lightning Rod was dead. Except Daniel's phone rang. Olivia panicked. Someone's trying to get in. The security panel is going crazy. The sound of shattering glass cut her off, followed by Leia's scream. Daniel was already running for his car. Call 911. Barricade yourselves in the bedroom. Daniel, more glass breaking, then gunfire. 3 shots, control bursts. Olivia shooting then. Olivia nothing. Daniel drove like a man possessed, taking corners at speeds that should have killed him. His mind ran through scenarios, each worse than the last. If they'd hurt Leia, he made it to the building in 12 minutes a drive that should have taken 30. Security was in chaos, guards running everywhere, LAPD units arriving. Daniel badged through, using his military ID, taking the stairs 3 at a time because waiting for the elevator would have driven him insane. The apartment door was destroyed, hanging off its hinges. Daniel entered tactically, weapon drawn, a Sig Sauer he had grabbed from his car. The living room was a war zone, furniture, overturned glass everywhere from the shattered windows, blood on the carpet. But who's Leia? His voice cracked. Daddy? She emerged from the bedroom, Olivia behind her holding the Glock. Both were splattered with blood but appeared uninjured. Daniel dropped to his knees, pulling Leia into his arms. Are you hurt? No. Olivia protected me. She shot the bad men. Over Leia's head, he met Olivia's eyes. She was in shock, but holding it together, the weapon still raised like she expected more attackers. How many, he asked. 3. They came through the windows, repelling gear, professional. Her voice was eerily calm. I shot 2. The 3rd fled when he heard sirens. Daniel surveyed the scene with new respect. 2 bodies in tactical gear, both with center mass groupings that would make a drill sergeant proud. You did this? My father made me train every week from age 16. Said a woman in power needed to be able to protect herself. She finally lowered the weapon. I never thought I'd actually have to kill anyone. They shot first. Daniel kept his voice steady for Leia's sake. You did what you had to do. She saved mine first, Olivia said, and suddenly she was crying, all the CEO armor crumbling. The 3rd one had me, but Leia threw her rabbit at his face. Gave me time to reload. Daniel looked at his 8-year-old daughter, this brave, impossible child, who'd inherited Sarah's courage along with her eyes. You threw Mr. Hoppy. He would have hurt Olivia, Leia said simply, and you like her. Before Daniel could process that, LAPD burst in, weapons drawn. The next hour was controlled chaos, statements, crime scene texts, Detective Morrison arriving to take charge. The dead attackers had no identification, but their equipment was military grade, their tactics professional. This is beyond my pay grade, Morrison admitted. FBI's taking over, probably Homeland Security too. He pulled Daniel aside. You need to disappear, Daniel, all of you. He was right. They were exposed here, vulnerable. But where could they go that these people couldn't find them? I have a place, Olivia said. She'd recovered her composure, the CEO mask back in place. A cabin in Big Bear, off the books, purchased through shell companies. My father's last gift, the bolt hole for emergencies. They'll track no. He was paranoid about it. No digital footprint, no records in any searchable database. Even I forgot it existed until now. Daniel considered. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than staying here, pack fight. We leave in 10 minutes. As Leia gathered her things carefully, retrieving Mr. Hoppy from the corner where he'd landed, Olivia approached Daniel. That name on the list, Sterling, you knew him. My former commander. The mission that went wrong, he planned it. You think he was involved in Project Lightning Rod? I think everyone connected to that project is dead except you. And now you're recreating the same technology your father died for. So we find out what lightning rod really was, who wanted it stopped, and why they're trying to steal it now. Olivia, you should run. Take your money, disappear. Let them have the technology. No, her green eyes flashed with determination. They killed my father. They killed Marcus. They tried to kill your daughter. This ends when they're stopped, not before. Daniel saw the steel in her, the same determination that had built a corporate empire and revolutionized energy technology. She wouldn't run. Neither would he. Then we do this together. Together, she agreed. From across the room, Leia watched them with those two knowing eyes holding her rabbit tight. She'd already lost one parent to cancer, nearly lost another to violence tonight. But she wasn't crying, wasn't panicking. She was a survivor. The war for Lightning Rod had begun, and Daniel Cross, the ghost soldier who tried so hard to disappear, was about to remind the world why some ghosts should never be awakened. The drive to Big Bear took 3 hours through the pre-dawn darkness, Daniel constantly checking mirrors for tails, while Olivia navigated using paper maps. Nothing digital that could be traced. Leia slept in the back seat, clutching Mr. Hoppy, occasionally whimpering from dreams that no 8-year-old should have. She's traumatized, Olivia said quietly, watching the girl in the rearview mirror. She's alive, Daniel replied. Everything else we can deal with later. The cabin emerged from the pine forest like something from a fairy tale, a modest A-frame structure that looked abandoned from the outside windows, dark roof thick with pine needles. But Daniel's trained eye caught the details: reinforced door frames, subtle cameras, windows that were likely bulletproof. Your father built a fortress, he observed. He built a sanctuary, Olivia corrected, punching a code into a hidden panel. Or a prison, depending on how you look at it. The interior was a surprise modern, fully equipped with a sophisticated security system that would make most military bases jealous. Olivia's father had spared no expense in creating his hidden retreat. There's a workshop in the basement, she said, flicking on lights. Full laboratory, actually. He did some of his most sensitive work here. Daniel carried Leia to one of the bedrooms, tucking her in without waking her. When he returned, he found Olivia in the kitchen, making coffee with hands that shook slightly, the adrenaline finally wearing off. You killed 2 men tonight, he said gently. I know. She didn't look at him. I can still feel the gun jumping in my hands, see their faces through the sights. The first time is always the hardest. Does it get easier? No, it just gets more necessary. He accepted the coffee she offered. You saved Laya's life. Hold on to that. She's remarkable, your daughter. Most children would have frozen, but she acted. Her mother's genes. Sarah was the brave one. Olivia studied him over her mug. Tell me about her. Sarah. Daniel rarely talked about his wife, but something about the darkness, the shared violence, made him open up. We met at Walter Reed. I was recovering from my first Purple Heart. She was a pediatric nurse. She said I looked like a lost puppy who'd been kicked too many times. Romantic. She was like that, brutally honest but kind about it. We got married 6 months later, right before my second deployment. She waited, never complained, even when I came back different each time. How did she handle it, the changes? She didn't try to fix me, just loved me through it. When the IED happened, when I came back broken in ways that didn't show on x-rays, she held me together. His voice roughened. Then the cancer came. 18 months from diagnosis to the end. I watched the strongest person I knew waste away, and there was nothing I could do. No enemy to fight, no mission to complete, just helplessness. I'm sorry, she made me promise to keep living to raise Leia right. But after she died, I just wanted to disappear. Become nobody, be nothing. Safer that way. But you couldn't stay hidden, not when someone needed help. Sarah used to say I had a hero complex, that I needed to save everyone because I couldn't save myself. Maybe she was right. Or maybe you're just a good man in a world that's forgotten what that means. Before Daniel could respond, his phone buzzed. Tommy Rodriguez, brother, you need to know something. I kept digging into Lightning Rod, your Colonel Sterling. He wasn't working alone. There's a whole network: military contractors, intelligence assets, corporate executives. They called themselves the Prometheus Group. What did they want to prevent? Certain technologies from disrupting the global balance. Energy weapons, advanced batteries, anything that could shift power too quickly. They weren't stealing tech, they were suppressing it. Daniel put the phone on speaker so Olivia could hear. Sterling's dead, Daniel said. So who's running Prometheus now? That's the million-dollar question. But I found something else. Nathaniel Hartman wasn't just developing the battery. He was going to give it to China. Olivia gasped. That's impossible. My father was a patriot. Your father was a businessman, sir. Tommy interrupted. China offered him $50 billion for exclusive rights. The Defense Department found out, tried to stop him. The heart attack happened 2 days before the transfer was supposed to occur. You're saying they killed him. I'm saying he died conveniently. And now his daughter has recreated the same technology and the same players are circling. Daniel's mind raced, assembling pieces. But the attackers have been trying to kidnap Olivia, not kill her. Because whoever's running Prometheus now wants the technology not to suppress it, but to control it. The game's changed since Nathaniel's time. Any idea who's working on it? But Daniel, be careful. These people have resources you can't imagine. And they know where you are. How? Because I'm telling them the voice wasn't Tommy's anymore. Someone else had taken the phone. Daniel recognized it immediately. Richard Sterling, his dead commander. Hello, Sergeant Cross. Been a long time. You're supposed to be dead. Death is a useful fiction, allows one to work without scrutiny. Sterling's voice was exactly as Daniel remembered, cultured, cold, intelligent. I must admit, I didn't expect you to surface. You were doing so well as nobody. Let Tommy go. Oh, Mr. Rodriguez is fine. Unconscious, but fine. We're not monsters, Daniel. We're pragmatists. The technology Ms. Hartman has developed is too dangerous for any one nation or corporation. It needs to be controlled, regulated, distributed carefully. By people who understand the implications. Imagine China with unlimited energy weapons or terrorists with batteries that could power a dirty bomb indefinitely. Some genies need to stay in their bottles. Olivia grabbed the phone. You killed my father. Your father was going to start World War III for money. We stopped him. Unfortunately, you have inherited both his genius and his stubbornness. So you'll kill me too. I'd prefer your cooperation. Join Prometheus. Help us control the technology's release. Ensure it benefits humanity without destroying it. Go to hell. Sterling sighed. I expected as much. Daniel, you have 24 hours to convince her. After that, we take more direct action. And your daughter, well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. The line went dead. Daniel immediately started packing. We move now. He knows we're here. Not yet, but Tommy's equipment will tell them soon enough. We have maybe an hour. They grabbed essentials, Daniel carrying the sleeping Laya to the car. As they pulled away, he saw lights approaching through the forest, multiple vehicles moving fast. Where do we go? Olivia asked. Somewhere they won't expect. Somewhere public enough they can't act openly. An idea formed, the conference. You're supposed to present tomorrow. Today, actually, in San Francisco. That's insane. They'll be waiting, exactly. They'll expect us to run to hide. Instead, we walk right into the spotlight. You present your technology to the world, make it public. Once it's out there, killing you becomes pointless. And Prometheus can't operate in the open. Their power comes from shadows, from secrets. We drag them into the light. The drive to San Francisco took 8 hours using back roads and switching vehicles, twice rentals Daniel had scattered throughout California under false identities, another old habit that now proved invaluable. Leia woke halfway through, accepting their situation with that strange resilience children sometimes possessed. Are we going to be okay, Daddy? Yes, Princess. I promise. You can't promise that, she said seriously. Mom promised she wouldn't leave, but she did. Daniel's heart clenched. In the passenger seat, Olivia reached back to take Leia's hand. You're right, Olivia said. We can't promise everything will be okay, but we can promise to fight for it, to not give up. Is that enough? Leia considered this, I guess. They reached San Francisco as the morning fog rolled in, the city emerging from gray mist like something from a dream. The conference was at the Moscone Center, thousands of attendees expected for the Clean Energy Summit. Olivia's presentation was the keynote, the announcement that would change everything. Daniel left them at a hotel near the center while he scouted. The venue was crawling with security, but he spotted the Tells men and women who moved wrong for corporate security. Too smooth, too aware. Prometheus was here. He called Morrison his detective friend. I need a favor, big one. Daniel, you are wanted for questioning in connection with, I know, but in 4 hours someone's going to try to assassinate Olivia Hartman at the Clean Energy Summit. I need SFPD there in force. Visible. Ready. You have proof, I have instinct. And you know my instincts are good. Morrison was quiet for a moment. I'll make some calls. But Daniel, if you're wrong, I'm not. He returned to find Olivia reviewing her presentation while Leia watched cartoons. She changed into a power suit, looking every inch the CEO despite the exhaustion in her eyes. You're really going through with this? It's the only way. If the technology goes public, if everyone has access to the research, then controlling it becomes impossible. My father tried to sell it to one buyer. I'm giving it to the world. That's worth billions. That's worth my life. And yours. And Laya's. She closed her laptop. Besides, money isn't everything, said the billionaire. Said the woman who just learned her father was willing to start a war for profit. She stood smoothing her skirt. I won't be him, Daniel. I won't let greed or fear determine the future. The conference center was packed, the energy palpable. Daniel had positioned himself in the back sight lines to all exits, Leia beside him, with strict instructions to stay close. He'd wanted to leave her at the hotel, but after last night's separation seemed more dangerous than proximity. Olivia took the stage to thunderous applause. She looked small behind the podium, but her voice carried clear and strong. Today I stand before you to announce not just a breakthrough, but a revolution. For 3 years, Hartman Industries has developed a battery technology that will fundamentally change how we generate, store, and use energy. Screens lit up with technical specifications, charts, projections. The audience leaned forward, sensing the magnitude of what was being revealed. But more importantly, Olivia continued, I'm announcing that this technology will be open source. Every patent, every formula, every piece of research will be publicly available as of noon today. The audience erupted, gasps, shouts, reporters frantically typing. Daniel spotted movement in his peripheral vision, 3 men pushing through the crowd, hands reaching inside jackets. He moved before thinking, pulling Leia behind a concrete pillar as the first shot rang out. Screams panicked the crowd, surging in all directions. On stage, Olivia dropped behind the podium as security swarmed. Daniel counted muzzle flashes. 3 shooters positioned for crossfire. But they hadn't counted on the SFPD presence Morrison had arranged. Officers flooded in from every entrance, tactical teams that had been waiting for exactly this. The shooters tried to flee, but found exits blocked. Daniel watched one make a desperate break for the emergency exit. Without thinking, he intercepted, using the crowd's chaos as cover. They collided hard, the shooter's weapon spinning away. Daniel didn't give him a chance to recover. 3 quick strikes, and the man was down unconscious before he hit the floor. Daddy Leia's voice cut through the chaos. She was pointing at the stage where Olivia was being hustled away by security. But one of the security guards moved wrong. Daniel recognized the gate, the positioning, not protection, but capture. He pushed through the crowd, Leia's hand tight in his. The fake guard was leading Olivia toward a service exit, her arm twisted behind her back, hidden from view by their positioning. Stop, Daniel shouted, but his voice was lost in the chaos. He did the only thing he could think of, pulled the fire alarm. The sprinkler system activated, drenching everyone, adding to the confusion, but also making the fake guard pause, looking for the source of the new complication. That moment's hesitation was enough. Daniel reached them, grabbing the guard's wrist and applying pressure to nerve points that made him release Olivia. They grappled briefly, but the man was off balance, surprised. Daniel put him down hard, probably breaking his arm in the process. You okay? He asked Olivia, who was soaked and shaking but unharmed. The presentation, the files already uploaded automatically at noon 10 minutes ago. She managed a weak smile. It's done, it's out there. Sirens wailed as more police arrived. The shooters were in custody, the immediate threat neutralized. But Daniel knew this was just the beginning. Prometheus wouldn't give up because of one failed attempt. His phone rang. Sterling, impressive sergeant, using the police as unwitting allies, very clever. It's over, Sterling, the technology is public. Oh, Daniel, you think this was about suppressing the technology? That was the old game. The new game is controlling who uses it first, who weaponizes it best. And that game has just begun. What do you mean? Check the news. Beijing, Moscow, Tel Aviv military installations in all 3 cities are reporting energy signatures consistent with Ms. Hartman's battery technology. Someone has already weaponized it, already deployed it. The question is, who Daniel's blood chilled you? Prometheus built weapons. We built safeguards. But someone has activated them without authorization. Someone inside Prometheus has gone rogue, decided to start the war we've spent decades preventing. Who? That's what I need to find out. And despite our differences, I think we want the same thing to prevent global catastrophe. The enemy of my enemy? Sergeant. You tried to kill us. My enemies. Tried to contain a situation. Now that situation has exploded beyond anyone's control. Work with me or watch the world burn. Your choice. Daniel looked at Olivia, at Leia, at the chaos around them. 3 hours ago, their biggest problem was staying alive. Now they were talking about preventing World War III. What do you need, he asked Sterling. The complete technical specifications. Not the public version, the real ones. Someone has built weapons we don't fully understand. And Ms. Hartman is the only person who knows how they truly work. And if we help you, then what? Maybe we live long enough to regret it. I'll send coordinates. 1 hour. Come alone. Like hell. Fine. Bring your child soldier if you must. But Daniel, understand this. In the next 24 hours, either we stop this or major cities start disappearing. Beijing is evacuating government officials. Moscow has gone to full military alert. The clock is ticking. The line went dead. Olivia was staring at him. You can't trust him. He killed my father. I know. But if he's telling the truth about the weapons, she pulled out her phone, checking international news. Her face went pale. Energy readings in 3 cities. Military buildups. NATO's convening an emergency session. She looked up. What have I done? You gave the world a gift. Someone else turned it into a weapon. Same result. Leia tugged on Daniel's sleeve. Are we the good guys or the bad guys? It was such a simple question with such a complicated answer. How did you explain to a child that sometimes there were no good guys, just people trying to minimize the damage? We're the ones trying to stop people from getting hurt, he said finally. Then we're the good guys, Leia decided with 8-year-old certainty. If only it were that simple. The coordinates Sterling had sent led to an abandoned warehouse in Oakland, the kind of place where bad things happen to careless people. Daniel approached carefully Olivia and Leia in the car a block away with strict instructions to flee if he didn't return in 20 minutes. Sterling was waiting inside, and Daniel's shock was physical. His former commander was supposed to be dead, but here he stood scarred, but very much alive. The left side of his face showed burn marks. His left arm moved stiffly, but his eyes were sharp as ever. Car accident, Daniel asked. Car bomb, courtesy of someone who didn't appreciate Prometheus's work. I survived, decided death was a useful cover. Sterling gestured to a table covered with documents, laptops, maps. The situation is worse than I told you. How much worse? The weapons in Beijing, Moscow, and Tel Aviv aren't just tests. They're countdown timers. In 18 hours, unless they receive the proper shutdown code, they'll detonate. Detonate electromagnetic pulses powered by Ms. Hartman's battery technology, enough to knock out every electronic device in a 50-mile radius. No phones, no computers, no infrastructure. The cities would collapse into chaos within hours. Daniel studied the documents, technical readouts, satellite imagery, intelligence reports. It was real, terrifyingly real. Who's doing this? Someone calling themselves Cassandra. We think it's someone inside Prometheus. Someone who decided that preventing war wasn't enough, that humanity needed to be shocked into abandoning these technologies altogether. By starting the war you were trying to prevent. Extremists always think they're saving the world. Sterling pulled up a photograph. Recognize her. Daniel's shock was complete. The woman in the photo was Emma Richardson, someone he'd worked with years ago, someone he'd trusted. Former Secret Service, brilliant, dedicated, and apparently completely insane. Emma's Cassandra. We think so. She disappeared 6 months ago after arguing that Prometheus wasn't going far enough. Said we were just delaying the inevitable, that only a demonstration of the technology's destructive power would convince humanity to abandon it. So she's going to destroy 3 cities to make a point, unless we stop her. Sterling smiled grimly. That's where Ms. Hartman comes in. She created the technology. She can create the shutdown codes. But we need the real specifications, not the sanitized version she released publicly. Daniel made the call. 20 minutes later, Olivia arrived, leaving Leia in the locked car despite the girl's protests. She entered the warehouse like a queen entering enemy territory, head high despite the fear in her eyes. Ms. Hartman Sterling said, I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. You killed my father. Your father was going to sell technology to China that would have started an arms race ending in nuclear war. I prevented that by murdering him. The method was regrettable but necessary. Sterling gestured to the evidence spread on the table. Just as stopping Cassandra is necessary now. Olivia examined the documents, her expression growing increasingly horrified. These readings, someone has weaponized my technology beyond anything I imagined. The power output is incredible. Can you create shutdown codes? Maybe, but I'd need access to the weapons themselves, or at least their control systems. Cassandra will have those. We need to find her. And how do we do that? Daniel asked. Sterling smiled coldly. She'll come to us. You see, there's one more component needed for her plan. The original lightning rod prototype. Your father's real work. Ms. Hartman, the weapon he was building before we stopped him. I told you I never found it because we took it. Stored it in a Prometheus facility in Nevada. Cassandra needs it to complete her network to link the three weapons into a coordinated strike. She'll come for it. So we use it as bait. We use everything as bait. The prototype. Ms. Hartman. Even your daughter, if necessary. Daniel's hand moved to his weapon. Relax, Sergeant. I'm not a monster. But Cassandra knows your weakness will try to exploit it. We need to be ready. Over the next 6 hours, they planned. The Prometheus facility in Nevada was a fortress underground, heavily defended, designed to withstand anything short of a nuclear strike. Sterling would take Olivia there to work on the shutdown codes while Daniel coordinated security. But as they prepared to leave, Laia surprised them all. The lady is already here, she said quietly. Everyone froze. What lady, Princess? Daniel asked. The one who's been watching us. She has a silver car and pretty red hair. She parked across the street 20 minutes ago. Daniel moved to the window carefully. A silver sedan, someone inside, red hair visible through the windshield. Emma Richardson. Waiting. She knows we're here, Sterling said. This was always a trap. Before anyone could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Then Emma's voice echoed through the warehouse, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Hello, Richard, Daniel, Miss Hartman. I've been waiting for you to figure it out. Emma Sterling called out. This isn't the way. Isn't it 40 years of Prometheus preventing wars by maintaining the status quo? But the status quo is killing the planet, Richard. We need shock therapy, not gradual change. You'll kill millions to save billions. The electromagnetic pulses will destroy the infrastructure of militaristic technology. No more smart weapons, no more drone strikes, no more electronic warfare. Humanity will be forced to step back from the brink. For how long? Olivia called out. Technology can be rebuilt. Not if everyone sees what it leads to. Not if the horror is great enough. Movement in the shadows. Daniel pushed Olivia down as gunfire erupted. Not Emma, she'd brought backup. Sterling returned fire, surprisingly agile for a man supposedly killed in a car bomb. Get to the car, Daniel shouted to Olivia. Get Leia out of here. But Olivia was already moving not away, but toward a laptop on the table. I need the data. Without it, we can't stop the weapons. Daniel provided covering fire while she downloaded files. Sterling beside him, their old soldier synchronization returning despite the years and betrayals between them. Just like Kandahar, Sterling shouted over the gunfire. Yeah, except this time, you're not sending us into an ambush. Like that wasn't intentional. Tell that to Martinez. They fought their way to the exit. Olivia clutching the laptop. The car was 20 yards away. Leia's frightened face visible through the window. But Emma stood between them and safety weapon raised. It doesn't have to end like this, she said. Join me. Help me save the world. By destroying it, by resetting it. Sometimes you have to burn the forest to save it. My daughter's in that car. You think I'll let you? Your daughter will inherit a dead world if we don't act. Climate change, resource wars, technological terrorism. Is that the future you want for her? For a moment, Daniel wavered. She wasn't entirely wrong. The world Leia would inherit was broken, possibly beyond repair. But then he thought of Sarah, her faith that people could choose to be better. That hope mattered more than fear. The best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time. We solve today's problems today, tomorrow's tomorrow. We don't murder millions because we're afraid of what might happen. Then you're part of the problem. Emma raised her weapon, but Leia's voice cut through the tension. Please don't hurt my daddy. The 8-year-old had gotten out of the car, standing small and brave in the warehouse lights. He's trying to help. We all are. Why can't you see that? Emma hesitated, the weapon wavering. In that moment, Daniel saw not a terrorist, but a broken woman who'd lost faith in humanity's ability to save itself. Get back in the car, princess, he said gently. No, she needs to hear this. Leia stepped forward, fearless in the way only children could be. My mommy died trying to make people better. She said, even when things are bad, we have to believe they can get better. Otherwise, what's the point? Emma's weapon lowered slightly. Your mother sounds like she was naive. She was dying and still believed. Leia said, that's not naive, that's brave. The standoff stretched, everyone frozen. Then Emma made her choice, the weapon coming back up, aimed at Sterling, the prototype location. Now, never. Then I'll take the girl. Daniel will trade the information for her own, and she moved toward Leia, and that was her mistake. Daniel didn't think, just reacted. The shot was perfect, shoulder spinning her around, weapon flying. She went down hard, clutching the wound. You always were too emotional, Richardson Sterling said, standing over her. It's why you washed out of Secret Service. Emma laughed bitterly, blood seeping between her fingers. You think you've won? The weapons are already armed. Without me, you'll never find the abort codes. We'll see about that, Olivia said, opening the laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, code scrolling past. Daniel, I need 10 minutes. You have 5 before her backup arrives. But Emma's backup was already fleeing, the sirens growing closer. Whatever loyalty she'd inspired didn't extend to facing arrest. The 3 cities, Emma gasped, growing weaker. They were just the beginning. There are 12 more weapons in 12 more cities, and all connected, all counting down, where Sterling demanded. Emma smiled bloodily. Everywhere that matters, London, Tokyo, Delhi, New York, the whole world will learn the price of technological arrogance. The abort codes, Daniel pressed. Give them to us. Can't. They're biometric locked to me, and in about 2 minutes I'll be too weak to activate them. Daniel knelt beside her. Then activate them now. Save those lives. What's so humanity can continue its march towards self-destruction? So my daughter can have a chance to grow up. So millions of other daughters and sons can have that chance. Emma looked at Leia, something flickering in her eyes. She really does look like her mother. You knew Sarah. We met once at a medical conference. She was presenting on pediatric trauma care in war zones. Said children deserved a chance to heal, no matter what horror they'd witnessed. Emma coughed, blood speckling her lips. I thought she was naive too. She wasn't. Emma closed her eyes. The codes are in my apartment. Biometric safe. You'll need my thumbprint and retinal scan. Still conscious enough for both, but barely. Where's your apartment? She gave the address, then grabbed Daniel's hand with surprising strength. I wanted to save the world. How did it come to this? The road to hell, Sterling said coldly, is paved with good intentions, Emma finished. Story of Prometheus. The sirens were right outside now. Daniel looked at Sterling. We need to go, now, agreed. Miss Hartman, I've got partial locks on 5 weapons, but I need those abort codes for the rest. They loaded into 2 vehicles, Sterling taking Emma in one, Daniel driving Olivia, and Leia in another. The race to Emma's apartment was tense every second, counting down toward potential catastrophe. The apartment was sparse functional, the home of someone who'd given up on normal life. The safe was hidden behind a false wall, sophisticated but not impregnable once Emma provided her biometrics. Inside were drives, documents, and a single photograph Emma with a young girl, perhaps 5 years old. My daughter, Emma said weakly, died in a terrorist attack. Cyber terrorism that knocked out hospital power grids. She was on life support. The pieces clicked into place for Daniel. Emma's crusade wasn't about saving the world. It was about punishing it for taking her daughter. I'm sorry, he said, meaning it. Don't be. Just stop what I started. Olivia was already working, uploading abort codes, fingers flying across multiple keyboards Sterling's team had brought. Got London and Tokyo, working on Delhi. The tension was unbearable, each second potentially the last before catastrophe. Leia sat quietly beside Daniel, her small hand in his, both of them watching Olivia work her technological magic. Delhi's clear, New York is fighting me. 3 minutes until the first deadline, Sterling announced. I'm trying. Daniel had never felt more helpless. In combat, he could act, could fight. Here their fate rested in lines of code and electronic signals he didn't understand. Got it, Olivia shouted. New York is safe, moving to Moscow. One by one, she disabled the weapons, each success feeling like a miracle. Beijing was last, the most complex, the countdown at 30 seconds, when she finally broke through. Clear, she said, sagging with exhaustion. All weapons neutralized. The relief was overwhelming. Daniel pulled both Olivia and Leia into an embrace, feeling them both shaking. They'd done it. They'd prevented global catastrophe. It's not over, Sterling said. The technology is still out there. Others will try to weaponize it. Then we stop them, Olivia said firmly. We monitor, we regulate, we ensure it's used for good. Prometheus was right about one thing: this technology needs guardians, but not secret ones. Open, accountable, dedicated to progress, not suppression. Sterling studied her. You're proposing to reform Prometheus. I'm proposing something better. A consortium of nations, corporations, and individuals committed to responsible development. No shadows, no assassinations, just transparent governance. Idealistic. Necessary, Daniel countered. The old way led to this. Time for something new. Emma died as the sun set, her last words a warning about others who shared her vision. Extremists who would rather see the world burn than change slowly. But for now, the immediate threat was over. That night in a hotel room, paid for with cash, Daniel tucked Leia into bed. She looked up at him with those serious gray eyes. Are we safe now, Daddy? Safer, he said honestly. But safety isn't permanent. We have to work for it every day. Like Mom worked to help sick people. Exactly like that. She was quiet for a moment. I like Olivia. Yeah. She's smart and brave, and she protected me. Mom would like her too. Daniel's throat tightened. I think you're right. Are you going to marry her? What? No, princess. It's not we just met. Mom said, when you know, you know. She knew with you right away. Daniel had no answer for that. Leia smiled, looking more like Sarah than ever. It's okay, Daddy. You deserve to be happy too. After she fell asleep, Daniel found Olivia on the hotel room's small balcony, staring out at the city lights. Thinking about your father, he asked. Thinking about everything. How he was willing to sell to China. How Sterling killed him for it. How Emma nearly destroyed cities in the name of saving them. Everyone's so sure they were right. And I just wanted to create something that would help people. Clean energy, better world. Simple goal. Now look where we are. We saved millions of lives today after endangering them by releasing the technology. Daniel turned her to face him. You couldn't have known someone would weaponize it so quickly. Couldn't I? My father did. That's why he was willing to sell. He knew someone would eventually might as well profit from it. You're not your father. No, but I'm his daughter. His legacy. You're your own person. And today that person chose to save lives rather than profit from death. She leaned into him, and he held her, feeling her tears soak through his shirt. They stood there as the city hummed below, two damaged people who'd found each other in the midst of chaos. What happens now? She asked. We build your consortium. We monitor the technology. We try to make the world Leia will inherit a little better. Together if you'll have us. Fair warning, we come with baggage. We all do. She pulled back, looking up at him, Daniel liking. He kissed her, cutting off whatever she was going to say. It was probably too soon, definitely complicated. But after everything they'd been through, waiting seemed pointless. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she smiled. Leia's right. About what? You know, Sarah would approve. How did you thin walls? 8-year-olds aren't quiet, even when they think they are. They laughed, the sound strange after so much tension and violence. But it felt good, felt human, felt like hope. Inside, Leia smiled in her sleep, dreaming of a future where her daddy was happy again, where families could be rebuilt from broken pieces, where second chances were possible even after the darkest moments. The war for Lightning Rod was over, but the fight for the future had just begun. And Daniel Cross, no longer a ghost but not quite a soldier, had found something worth fighting for again. Not just his daughter's safety, but the possibility of a world worth her inheriting. The hospital room was bright and sterile when Daniel finally opened his eyes. The steady beep of monitors confirmed he was alive, though the pain radiating from his chest suggested it had been a close call. His first coherent thought was of Leia. 3 days, Sterling's voice came from somewhere to his left. The doctors weren't sure you'd make it. Daniel turned his head with effort. His former commander sat in a visitor's chair looking less like the shadowy Prometheus leader and more like an exhausted old soldier. The burns on Sterling's face seemed more pronounced under the harsh hospital lighting. Leia, Daniel managed his voice a dry rasp. With Ms. Hartman, they've barely left the hospital. I sent them to get food. Sterling leaned forward. Webb's in custody along with 63 other members of his network. Emma Richardson died during transport. The weapons have been neutralized. Daniel tried to process this. The last thing he remembered was Webb's gun, the bullet impact, Olivia's desperate voice begging him to stay. 12 million, Sterling continued. That's the analyst's estimate of how many lives you saved. Not bad for a busboy. The door opened before Daniel could respond. Leia's face appeared, eyes widening when she saw him awake. She rushed forward with none of the caution that hospital visitors usually showed, climbing carefully onto the edge of his bed. Daddy, she was crying and smiling at once. You kept your promise. Behind her came Olivia, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but relief washed over her features as she approached. The doctors said it would be days before you... She stopped, composing herself. But I told them how stubborn you are. Daniel tried to smile, the simple act taking more strength than it should. I had good reasons to wake up. He reached for Leia's hand, then Olivia's, the contact anchoring him. The three of them formed a silent tableau, broken only when Sterling cleared his throat. Perhaps now is a good time to discuss the future, he said. Daniel's grip tightened on Olivia's hand. Not now, Sterling. There may not be a better time. Sterling stood. Emma's network is larger than we thought. Her reset movement has cells in 27 countries. Webb's confession gave us some, but not all. Technology like Hartman's will continue to emerge, and there will always be those who want to control it or destroy it. That's tomorrow's problem, Daniel said firmly. It was yesterday's problem too, Sterling countered. We just didn't know it yet. Olivia stepped into the tension. What are you proposing exactly? A new organization, not shadowy like Prometheus, but transparent, accountable, internationally sanctioned. Something to protect humanity from its own technological achievements and from those who would weaponize them. Daniel studied his former commander. The man had orchestrated the death of Olivia's father, had possibly sacrificed Daniel's squad for greater objectives. Yet here he was proposing partnership. Why would I trust you? Sterling's expression didn't change. You shouldn't, not completely. But we share an enemy more dangerous than our grudges, human short-sightedness. Technology doesn't care about politics or borders. It doesn't care about intentions. It just exists waiting for use or misuse. And you want me to help lead this organization? Daniel asked incredulously. You, Miss Hartman, myself, others with specific expertise. A coalition of the pragmatic. After I recover, Daniel said firmly, after I've had time with my daughter, after I've decided if I can trust you not to put a bullet in my back. Something almost like respect flickered in Sterling's eyes. Of course, take all the time you need. The Global Technology Oversight Initiative will wait. You already have a name for it? Olivia asked, eyebrow raised. I've had 6 years to think about it, since Nathaniel Hartman's death. Sterling moved toward the door. When you're ready, Ms. Hartman knows how to contact me. After he left, silence settled over the room. Leia, sensing the adults needed to talk, asked to watch television. Once she was occupied with an animated show, Olivia sat on the edge of Daniel's bed. You don't trust him, she said. It wasn't a question. The man sent my squad into an ambush. He killed your father. To stop my father from selling world-changing technology to China. She touched his bandaged chest gently. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying motives matter. Even terrible actions can come from believing you're doing what's necessary. Like Webb, like Emma. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. It's always the true believers who do the most damage. Maybe, but sometimes believing in something greater than yourself is exactly what's needed. She looked toward Leia. You believe in her future enough to die for it. I saw you make that choice. Daniel couldn't argue with that. We should be careful. Sterling isn't telling us everything. Of course not. But I've been thinking about his proposal while you were unconscious. The technology is out there now. My technology. I have responsibility for what happens next. We all do, Daniel conceded, but on our terms, not his. 4 days later, against medical advice, Daniel checked himself out of the hospital. The bullet had missed his heart by millimeters, collapsed his lung, and fractured 2 ribs. The doctors wanted 2 more weeks of observation. Daniel compromised at twice-weekly outpatient visits. Olivia had secured them a small house on the outskirts of San Francisco, close enough to medical facilities, but isolated enough for security. It wasn't large, but after years of cramped apartments, it felt like a mansion to Daniel and Leia. "We can paint your room any color you want," Olivia told Leia as they toured the house. She had been spending increasingly more time with them, her role shifting from ally to something closer to family. "Really even purple?" Leia's eyes widened. "Even purple, with stars on the ceiling if you want." Daniel watched them from the doorway, still moving gingerly from his injuries. The domesticity of the moment struck him as surreal after everything they'd been through. Yet there was something right about it too, as if the universe were balancing accounts after taking so much from all of them. That night, after Leia was asleep, Olivia joined Daniel on the back porch. The yard was small but private, bordered by tall evergreens. He had been staring at the stars, thinking about choices and consequences. "Webb's talking," Olivia said without preamble. "Apparently he's been quite forthcoming since he learned you survived. Guilt is powerful." Daniel kept his eyes on the scale. "What's he saying?" "He explained how he faked his death. The body I identified was a John Doe from the city morgue, approximately the same build, facial features, destroyed in the accident. He had help from a medical examiner who believed in his cause." She shivered slightly in the night air. "He also revealed how he found my father's research. Apparently, Marcus was brilliant but careless with his digital footprint. He'd been accessing classified files for years. And the amplification device, his own creation built on my father's foundation, but more elegant, more destructive. He says he never intended to kill, only to reset." She pronounced the word with distaste. "He still believes he was right about the problem, just wrong about the solution." Fanatics usually do. "Am I a fanatic, Daniel?" The question caught him off guard. She continued before he could answer. "I believe so completely in what I was creating. I still do. I pushed it into the world without considering the consequences." Daniel turned to her. "The difference is you're willing to accept responsibility for those consequences. You're willing to adapt when reality doesn't match your vision. That's not fanaticism, that's wisdom." She smiled faintly. "Now you sound like my brother. He used to say that the true test of intelligence isn't being right, it's recognizing when you're wrong." "Smart man. He would have liked you." She moved closer, her shoulder touching his. "I've been thinking about Sterling's proposal." "So have I." Daniel sighed. "I don't trust him, but I understand why he's doing this. Prometheus operated in darkness for decades, playing God with technological advancement. Now that approach has failed spectacularly. Something new is needed. Something transparent," she agreed. "Something accountable. Something we control, not him." Daniel's voice hardened. "If we do this, and I'm still not saying we should, it has to be on our terms. Leia's safety is non-negotiable. Complete transparency about objectives and methods. Equal partnership between us. I've already drafted the charter." At his surprised look, she smiled. "CEO, remember, strategic planning is what I do." "Of course you have." For the first time in days, Daniel felt something like hope. Not the desperate hope of survival, but something calmer, more sustainable. A foundation to build on. Over the next 3 weeks, while Daniel recovered and Leia settled into her new school, they met repeatedly with Sterling and a growing circle of allies. The Global Technology Oversight Initiative took shape, part think tank, part security and organization, part regulatory body. 12 nations pledged support. Private donors, including Olivia herself, provided initial funding. Former Prometheus members, carefully vetted, brought expertise and connections. "We're building something unprecedented," Olivia told Daniel one night as they reviewed personnel files. "Not just monitoring dangerous technologies, but actively guiding their development toward beneficial applications. And stopping those who would weaponize them." Daniel added, his focus on the security aspects never wavering. The GTOI headquarters, a repurposed military research facility outside San Francisco, was nearly operational when Daniel finally confronted Sterling directly. They stood in what would become the main operations center, surrounded by screens and workstations still being installed. I need to know what really happened in Kandahar, Daniel said without preamble. My squad the ambush was it intentional. Sterling didn't pretend to misunderstand. Yes and no. Intelligence indicated a high-value target in that compound. We needed your team to trigger the trap so our secondary team could capture him. You sacrificed my men. I made a calculation. The target had information that could have saved hundreds of lives. Sterling's scarred face remained impassive. It went wrong. The secondary team was delayed. Your men died without purpose. That failure is on me. And Nathaniel Hartman, was that a calculation too? Something flickered in Sterling's eyes, not regret exactly, but acknowledgement. Hartman was going to sell technology that would have destabilized global military balance. He refused all attempts at persuasion. So yes, I made that call. How do I know you won't make those same calculations with us, with Leia or Olivia? You don't. Sterling's honesty was jarring, but the GTOI won't operate like Prometheus. Decisions won't be made unilaterally. The oversight board, the transparency requirements, they're not just for show. They're guardrails against precisely that kind of unilateral action. Daniel studied the man who had once been his commander, then his enemy, and now stood as an uneasy ally. If you ever threaten my family, I will end you. No calculations, no weighing of greater goods. Just a promise. Sterling nodded once. I would expect nothing less. A month after their confrontation, the GTOI officially launched. Daniel stood beside Olivia at the ceremony watching as she addressed representatives from a dozen countries. Her speech was measured but passionate, outlining the organization's mission to protect humanity from technological overreach while fostering beneficial innovation. Technology itself is neutral, she told the assembled dignitaries. It's human choice that gives it purpose. Our task is to ensure those choices lead toward life, not destruction. As she spoke, Daniel scanned the crowd from the habit assessing threats. But for once, his focus kept returning to her, to the strength and vision that had somehow found resonance with his own protective instincts. Later that evening, they stood in the new GTOI command center watching as the first monitoring systems came online. Displays showed technological developments being tracked worldwide, emerging energy systems, artificial intelligence breakthroughs, biotech innovations. It's incredible, Olivia said softly. A year ago, I was just trying to create a better battery. Now we're watching over the technological future of humanity. Having second thoughts, Daniel asked. No, but the responsibility is weighty. She turned to him. Are you, He considered the question seriously. I spent 3 years trying to disappear to be nobody. Now we're doing exactly the opposite. And I think Sarah would approve. He rarely spoke of his wife, but in that moment he felt her presence not as grief but as guidance. She believed in leaving the world better than you found it. This is our chance to do that. Their moment was interrupted by an alert, a potential breach of containment at a biotech facility in South America. Daniel immediately shifted into operational mode, coordinating with the security team, while Olivia consulted with scientific advisors. Hours later, crisis averted, they returned home to find Leia asleep on the couch, having convinced her babysitter to let her wait up. Daniel carried her to bed while Olivia made tea, the domestic ritual now comfortably familiar. She wanted to see us before she went to sleep, Daniel said, returning to the kitchen, to make sure we were okay. She worries about you. She worries about both of us now. He accepted the tea Olivia offered. I think she's adopted you. Olivia smiled, the feelings mutual. They sat in companionable silence, the day's tension slowly ebbing. Daniel found himself studying her profile, struck once again by the unlikely path that had brought them together, a billionaire CEO and a busboy with a very particular set of skills. What? She asked, catching his gaze. Just thinking about probability. The chances of me working that specific shift at that specific restaurant on that specific night. You don't believe in coincidence. I believe someone was watching your security detail looking for vulnerability. I believe they chose that moment deliberately. But why they didn't account for a former ranger washing dishes? He shook his head. That was the universe rolling dice. The universe or something else. She set down her cup. After Sarah died, did you ever feel like she was still guiding you somehow? The question should have felt intrusive, but it didn't. Sometimes, especially with Leia, There are moments when I know exactly what Sarah would say, what she would do. He paused. Why hoyarata? My brother, after he died, I'd find myself making decisions and thinking James would approve of this. It was almost like he was nudging me in certain directions. She looked slightly embarrassed. Irrational, I know. Maybe, maybe not. Daniel reached for her hand, a gesture that had become natural between them. Either way, I think they'd both approve of what we're building here. Not just GTOI this, us. The word hung between them, undefined yet undeniable. They had moved from allies to friends to something more, but neither had put a label on it. The timing seemed wrong with so much at stake. Or perhaps they were both too accustomed to loss to risk naming something precious. Us, she repeated, her fingers intertwining with his. I like the sound of that. 2 months after the GTOI's launch, they faced their first major crisis. Intelligence indicated that remnants of Emma's network had infiltrated a European energy consortium attempting to weaponize Olivia's battery technology on a smaller scale. They're adapting, Daniel told the emergency response team. Instead of massive EMP weapons, they're building localized disruptors that could knock out city blocks' critical infrastructure. Precision attacks rather than mass destruction, Sterling observed, more difficult to track. But ultimately the same goal, forcing technological regression. Olivia pointed to the technical schematics they'd obtained. These designs are clever but flawed. The power regulation is unstable. If deployed, they'd likely kill the operators along with any targets. The operation to disrupt the cell lasted 3 days, intelligence gathering, infiltration, and finally a coordinated strike across 3 countries. Daniel coordinated from GTOI headquarters, his chest still not fully healed enough for fieldwork. When it was over, 27 members of Emma's network were in custody and the weapons had been secured. The European governments involved publicly credited international cooperation with no mention of GTOI, exactly as planned. This is just the beginning, Sterling warned during the debriefing. Emma's ideology has taken root. It will continue to attract converts. Then we'll continue to stop them, Daniel replied, and at the same time we'll show a better way forward. Later that night, as had become their custom, Daniel and Olivia took a moment on the back porch of their home. The spring air was cool but not cold-scented with the jasmine Olivia had planted. Webb asked to speak with you, she said. He's been cooperating, helping us understand the network's communication methods. What does he want with me? Absolution, perhaps, or understanding? She shrugged. He's been asking about you since he learned you survived. Daniel considered this. Maybe someday. Not yet. Fair enough. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. The techs found something interesting in those weapons we recovered. The design had been modified from Emma's original concepts. Improved, actually. By whom? They think by Webb himself before his capture. He left a signature of sorts in the code, a mathematical sequence that appears in his earlier work. Daniel frowned. But he's been in maximum security since we took him down. Exactly, either someone's copying his style perfectly or he found a way to communicate with the network. Daniel's mind raced through the implications. We need to, Olivia pressed a finger to his lips. Already done, his privileges have been restricted, communications monitored. The technical team is backtracing every digital contact. Daniel relaxed slightly. You handled it. I did, just like you handled the security breach last week when I was in Washington. Her expression softened. That's how this works, remember, partners. Equals. We cover each other's blind spots. He nodded, the truth of it settling into him. For so long, he had carried everything alone. Leia's safety, Sarah's memory, his own guilt. The weight had been crushing. Now it was shared not just with Olivia, but with the structure they'd built together. I've been thinking about what Webb said during the interrogation, Olivia continued, about humanity racing toward a cliff. He wasn't entirely wrong. No, he wasn't, but his solution was. Sometimes I wonder if we're really any different, if we're just imposing our vision instead of his. Daniel considered this carefully. The difference is choice. Webb wanted to force humanity backward by destroying what we've built. We're trying to give people options to guide rather than control. Is that enough? It has to be. He turned to face her fully. Anything more becomes tyranny, no matter how benevolent the intention. The next morning, Leia bounced into the kitchen before either of them was fully awake, waving a paper triumphantly. I got an A on my science project. Ms. Williams said it was the best in the class. Daniel examined the project, a detailed model of sustainable energy distribution using concepts Olivia had helped explain. That's amazing, Princess. Mom would be so proud. Olivia helped a lot, Leia said, throwing her arms around the woman who had become such an integral part of their lives. She explained all the hard parts. I just translated. The understanding was all yours, Olivia insisted, returning the hug. Daniel watched them, struck once again by how naturally they had become a unit. The family he thought he'd lost forever had somehow reformed, different but whole. Later that day, as they walked Leia to the bus stop, a normal, mundane activity that still felt like a miracle, Daniel made a decision. I'm going to talk to Webb, he told Olivia, as they watched the school bus pull away. I want to understand what he thought he was doing. She nodded. I think that's wise. Understanding doesn't mean forgiving. No, but it might help us anticipate what comes next. The meeting was arranged for the following week at the secure facility where Webb was being held. The former scientist had lost weight, his frame gaunt, but his eyes remained intensely focused. Sergeant Cross, he said as Daniel sat across from him. I wasn't sure you'd come. Neither was I. Webb studied him. The bullet missed your heart by 3 millimeters. Did they tell you that 3 millimeters between life and death? Why did you ask to see me? To understand. Webb leaned forward. You risked everything for a world that doesn't deserve saving. Why? Daniel considered the question. Because it's not about deserving, it's about possibility. What we could become, not what we are. Naive, Webb scoffed. Humanity has proven itself incapable of using technology wisely. We build wonders, then weaponize them. Every time. Not every time. Sometimes we build wonders and use them to heal, to connect, to elevate. Daniel leaned forward. And even when we fail, that doesn't justify mass murder. It wasn't murder. It was surgery removing the cancer before it spreads. No, it was playing God. Daniel stood. You didn't have the right to make that choice for millions. Webb's expression hardened. Neither do you. Your GTOI, your regulation of technology. How is that different? You're still deciding what humanity can and cannot have. We're transparent, accountable, and we don't kill people who disagree with us. Daniel moved toward the door. The difference matters. Does it? Or is it just a matter of scale, Webb called after him, when the next existential technology emerges? What will you do when true artificial intelligence arrives, or nanoweapons, or something we haven't even imagined? Where will you draw the line? Daniel paused at the door. I don't know, but we'll draw it together in the light, not in shadows. He turned back. That's the difference. As he left the facility, Daniel found Olivia waiting. How was it? She asked. Unsettling. He still believes he was right. Daniel shook his head. And the worst part is, I understand his fear. I just reject his solution. That's why we built GTOI, she reminded him, to find better solutions. They drove home in comfortable silence, each processing their own thoughts. As they pulled into the driveway, Leia ran out to meet them, excited about some new discovery at school. That night, after Leia was asleep, they sat together in the quiet house, the weight of Webb's questions still lingering. He asked where we would draw the line, Daniel said, with future technologies with existential risks. And what did you tell him? That we would decide together transparently. He sighed, but I'm not sure that satisfied him, or me. Olivia considered this. Perhaps the answer isn't where we draw the line, but how we approach the decision. With humility, with recognition of our own fallibility. The opposite of fanatics like Webb and Emma. Exactly. She took his hand. We don't have all the answers. We never will. But we're willing to admit that to learn to adjust. That's our strength. Daniel nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Tomorrow is worth the fight. What? Something Sarah used to say, tomorrow is worth the fight. Not because it will be perfect, but because it carries possibility. Olivia smiled. I like that. Perhaps we should put it on the GTOI insignia. Leia would approve. Daniel pulled her closer. She told me last night that she thinks Sarah sent you to us. Her exact words were, Mommy made sure we wouldn't be alone. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. That's a lot to live up to. You already do. He kissed her gently. Every day. Outside their window, the world continued its complex dance of progress and peril. Technology advanced, threats evolved, and somewhere someone was probably planning the next attempt to save or destroy humanity. But inside this home, a former ghost soldier, a brilliant CEO, and a wise child had formed their own response to chaos, not through violence or control, but through connection. The war for Lightning Rod was over, but the fight for humanity's future continued. Yet Daniel had learned that the real battle wasn't against external enemies, but against the despair that made people like Webb and Emma believe destruction was the only answer. Tomorrow is worth the fight, not because it would be perfect, but because it would be theirs to shape together.